Welcome to Ask Wardee. We're talking about oats today. If you've ever tried to soak them ahead of time to neutralize phytic acid, you might end up with really hard clumps that are just like glued together from all the oat starch. You bite on them and they hurt. They're not fun to eat. Well, I'm holding up my pre-soaked oats that I have soaked and then dried, and they are not hard. They're actually really pleasantly crunchy and soft, really nice to eat. So I'm talking today about that topic and actually walking you through making them yourself. There is a secret step. It's actually it's rather than something that you do, it's something that you don't do to make sure that your oats, your pre-soaked oats, are not rock hard or glued together with really tough starch. So let's get into it. First, let me welcome you to Ask Wardee. This is the weekly show where I answer your questions about traditional cooking. I am thrilled that you're here. We meet every Wednesday at this time, either on Facebook Live, Periscope, or you can catch the recordings and the notes and the transcripts at askwardee.tv anytime. So this is episode 94. So if you have to jump off or if you prefer to read, just go to askwardee.tv, look for episode 94, and you will see everything that I'm going to talk about today. As you're coming on live, Periscope and Facebook, welcome to you. Thanks so much for joining me live. Share your first name, where you're from, and what you're sipping on in the comments. We'd love to share that. And if you're on Facebook, Danielle is there in the comments, and she's going to be answering questions that you have, also pasting links to things that I mention, so you can check there. But all the links are at askwardee.tv, episode 94, for everything I'm sharing today. So, ready to get into it? Here's the issue. You go through a lot of effort because if you're into traditional cooking, traditional foods, you know that we like to neutralize anti-nutrients so that we improve the nutrition and digestion of our foods. So one of those nutrients is phytic acid, and it binds with minerals in our digestive tract. So it's really good to neutralize it ahead of time. Just do some pre-treatment of our food. It's present in grains, nuts, seeds, so that our food is more nutritious and digestible. Well, there's a lot of recipes calling for oats. And in fact, if you do Trim Healthy Mama or you're making granola, you're just using oats with their phytic acid, blending it right up or using it in the recipe. And you're like, I'd really like to have these pre-soaked because soaking is one of the methods of reducing phytic acid. Sprouting is as well. Fermenting or souring is as well, but in terms of oats, really the best thing to do is soaking because it works really well for this food. So you go through a lot of effort, you soak your oats with an acidic / probiotic medium overnight, then you dry them in your dehydrator, and then you go to eat them and they are rock hard. What's the problem? You just went to all that effort. Well, our oats are not rock hard. They're really pleasant. I love to use them in Trim Healthy Mama dishes. Like I love to make the Trim Healthy waffles and Trim Healthy pancakes that call for taking oats and blending them into a flour in the blender. Or if there's other baked good recipes, cookies that you want to toss oats into, it's really great to have them pre-soaked, but you definitely want them to turn out so they're not rock hard. And this is a question that actually came in from Renee, who was making oatmeal. Granola. Granola, oatmeal, same thing, right? She said, I was so excited to purchase my first dehydrator, and I've been having fun with herbs and soaking nuts. One thing I was really looking forward to, though, was soaked and dehydrated oats, which I'm calling pre-soaked oats. Granola or a lovely bowl of oatmeal on those mornings when I forget to soak them overnight would be so nice because you can literally take your pre-soaked oats and you can just cook them up into oatmeal on the spot, or you can combine them with like spices and dried fruit and nuts and seeds and your favorite milk and make a granola on the spot. We call those granola bowls. So she said, unfortunately, my first attempt turned out really hard. Even when I cook them up, they stay in hard clumps and the granola isn't accepted by the family who loves the texture of real granola. Yes, our family members. All the things that we make have to pass muster, don't they? She says, do you have any suggestions? Or if nothing else, could you just walk us through the steps and add your commentary so I can figure out what to expect at each step? Thanks so much. All right, Renee, I'm really happy to help because pre-soaked oats are one of my best friends in the kitchen. I love using them. Like we were talking about just a bit ago, you can make a quick granola bowl. You can cook them up quick for oatmeal without having to, if you forgot to soak the night before, you can toss them in your Trim Healthy Mama recipes that call for oats that you grind into a flour or that you add whole into things. So it's really, really great to have pre-soaked oats on hand. So I'm going to walk you through it. When I told you there was a secret step, it's a secret thing that we don't do, and I call it the no agitation rule. See, because oats have a lot of starch, and when you combine them with water, you stir them, and they release all that starch, and then you dry them, but they're still coated with that starch, and it turns into a glue, and that's what makes your pre-soaked oats, or whatever you're making with them, just rock hard and not fun to eat. So I'm going to walk you through the steps now, and we are not going to agitate anything, so that we're going to end up with very soft, crumbly, yet crisp pre-soaked oats. Hope you guys can see that well. I'll try to get a close-up shot for you with the recording, but see, they're just crumbling. They crunch, not hurting my teeth at all. All right, so if you're ready, we're going to walk through the steps. So the recipe that I have for you at askwardee.tv makes 7 cups, and you start with 8 cups of oats. We're not actually going to do it on that scale here on today's demonstration, but it's a very simple formula. So whether you're going to do 8 cups or 3 cups like I'm going to do, or you're going to scale it up to 16, it's very easy to do. Do know though, you're limited by your dehydrator size. So my dehydrator is an Excalibur, and there's links for you at the show notes or with this video. It has 9 trays. And the recipe that's at the show notes at askwardee.tv that calls for 8 cups of oats will use about 4 dehydrator trays. So if you have a 9-tray dehydrator, you can double it and still fit it all, okay? So that just helps you for scale. If you have like a 4 or 5-tray dehydrator, then you don't want to double it. You just go with, the maximum would be your 8-cup recipe. So I'm just going to do 3 cups here just for simplicity. This is 3 cups of organic rolled oats. And you can do thick rolled, you can do regular rolled. You could probably even do quick oats, the really tiny bits. But they're maybe going to end up like a lot crumbly when you're done. So I haven't ever tried it. I can't say for sure, but I'm going to guess that you should go with regular or thick. Those are the 2 that I've done and get good results. Okay, so got 3 cups here, and we're going to soak it overnight. Or 12 to 24 hours, at least 7 hours to reduce the phytic acid. The thing that does the work is an acid that you combine with your oats and water, of course. And I really like to use a probiotic acid. So I've got kombucha here because I think that the friendly organisms there really enhance the soaking process and make it sort of like a mini fermentation, which makes it even more healthy for you. For 3 cups of oats, we're going to soak with 3 cups of water, so the exact amount of water. For every cup of water, you need a tablespoon of your acid. So I have 3 tablespoons of an acid here. And I'm going to pour this over first so that when I add the water will help distribute the kombucha through the oats, and I don't have to stir at all. Because remember my rule, no agitation. All right, because the issue is here, once they're wet, you do not stir them. These need to stay just undisturbed, okay? And you leave that for 7 to 12 hours, 24 hours, basically overnight. And you do want to cover it. So I'm going to take this plastic off my already soaked oats and just recycle it here. So I started soaking these about 24 hours ago. You can see if I tip it, there's still liquid in there. I don't want to spill it out, but if I tip it, you can see that they have really plumped up, and there's some loose liquid, but not very much. They've absorbed most of the liquid. And again, I did not stir it the whole time. Okay? So now it's time to dehydrate. So like I said, I have an Excalibur, and you do need liners. So these are the Paraflex liners, but you could also use simple as parchment paper because the oats will fall through the mesh. So you do want to line it. So I've got it ready to go, and this is enough for 2 trays, so I'm just going to get you started on this with how it works. So slotted spoon. I really like this slotted spoon because it's like flat, so I can get a lot of oats without putting them into cramped quarters, they can drain, and I can transfer it easily to the tray. So no agitation, remember. So I'm going to dip into this and grab a set and just let that drip off. They don't have to be completely dry because the dehydrator is going to dry them, but the more you can drip off, the faster they'll dry in the dehydrator. So I just do it, I don't know, 10-15 seconds per scoop. Then I come and lay them on the tray, and I just very gently, no agitation, remember, spread it out with the edge of the spoon. So I kind of make it like quarter-inch thick or thereabouts. It's, you know, you're going to get ridges like that, but I generally just want to spread it out so it's sort of thin, okay? And I haven't agitated them at all. And I'll hold this up so you can see it. Do you see that? Okay, so you would repeat on 2 trays for this entire amount of oats. We started with 3, if you remember, okay? Then pretend this is full and pretend I have another tray full. It goes in the dehydrator, and with the Excalibur you can use this neat trick where you start at pretty high temperature for 2 hours. So you'd put it like at 145 degrees for the first 2 hours, and then you're going to turn it down lower to, like, I try to do things at raw temperatures, so 115 or below, to finish until they're dry. And they're going to take 12 to 24 hours total, depending on how thick your oats are, because they could be thick rolled oats, so it'll take longer than rolled, and also how thickly you've laid them out here. So all of that's going to factor into how long it takes overall till they're dry and crispy. And here is the tray of finished. So you can see they're darker. A lot of liquid has been dried out. In fact, nearly all of it. But we still have that kind of ridge shape from me doing the spoon. They weren't agitated, they were just spread out by my spoon motion, and they've shrunk a little bit. In fact, whatever you start with, you're going to end up with less. So the recipe written out that calls for 8 cups of rolled oats, you're going to end up with about 7 total. So this will be less when we're done. And they're dry, which you can tell because they sound crunchy, and you can just easily break them apart. And you can test them eating them. They're not like glue, they're not hard. No, they're not flavored at all. They just taste like sweet oats. I think oats have a nice, really wonderful natural sweetness, but of course they're not flavored. So these are ready to put in a recipe that calls for oats. They're ready to put in a bowl and add your cinnamon and milk and coconut and honey and whatever else you want to add. You could use these in a granola recipe. So at this point, then you're tossing with your ingredients and like drying out more. You can combine with water and cook up for instant oatmeal. They're just really, really awesome. So you've got them dry now, and what you want to do is break them apart to whatever chunks you like. I try to keep them in somewhat chunky. It's more work to break them up small, but if I want to use them in a granola bowl, I like to have bigger clumps of them. Again, they're not hard or glued together. They're really nice, but you're going to break them up and put them in jars or however you want to store them, and store them cool and dry in your pantry. You could, if you wanted, put them in the freezer if you're not going to use them up fairly quickly. And that's really it. Is that not amazing? So one of my favorite uses for these, like I said, is in the Trim Healthy Mama recipes. So the Trim Healthy pancakes, the Trim Healthy waffles, they say to take a cup of oats, put in your blender, grind into a flour, and then you add your other ingredients like cottage cheese and cinnamon and egg whites, and you blend that into a batter, and then you start making your pancakes. And we have those a lot, or you use the same batter for your waffles. I do them a lot like that. And if you haven't heard about Trim Healthy Mama, I just want to take a moment and share my story. As you may know, here we love traditional food. I got to a point a couple years ago where I needed to lose some weight. So what I did was I combined the principles of Trim Healthy Mama with our traditional food. So things like pre-soaked oats here. So where other people would be just doing the oats in the blender, I pre-soak them. So the phytic acid is reduced. And so over the course of a year, I was able to lose more than 30 pounds by doing the Trim Healthy Mama eating principles with our beloved traditional foods. And I would love to share a menu plan for you. It's a 1-week menu plan to share with you kind of the foods that I still eat, but that I used a lot in that year to lose over 30 pounds. So you can get that by following the link that's with this video, or it's going to be pasted in the notes. So it's tradcookschool.com/free menu, where free menu is all one word. And there you can get a 1-week menu plan. It's called a purist menu because the purists in Trim Healthy Mama are the ones that are doing, still keeping up with their soaking, sprouting, and fermenting, and kind of just staying pretty pure with whole foods and real foods. Trim Healthy Mama in general is real food based, but you can be very pure like we have been. So grab that menu if you haven't already. In it, I also share more of my story, and there's links for you to read more. But we put it together and people seem to love it, so I want to make sure you know about it. So we have come to the end. I would love to hear from you in the comments if you try this method, and Renee, especially you, if it improves your pre-soaked oats, if you find these useful. I just always have some on hand, and the method is very easy. It takes very little. Just while you're making dinner or whatever, start soaking your oats, and the next day, mid-afternoon, evening again, spread them on the dehydrator trays, and then the next day, pull them out of the dehydrator. It's just a couple minutes, a few days in a row, and then you can end up with a jar full of pre-soaked oats for all your favorite Trim Healthy Mama or granola or traditional food recipes. It's great when you can do traditional food. As you may know, that often we are soaking, sprouting, or fermenting. So even though those stages don't take very long, still, if you've got a hankering for something, you think, oh, I haven't soaked it, it's really good to find these cool little things that you can do so that you can instantly make something that you can be 100% confident is really healthy for you. And pre-soaked oats are definitely that for me. Like I said before, they're one of my best friends in the kitchen, and I hope they will be for you too. Thanks everyone for joining me. Come back again next week. Ask Wardee, same time, same place. You can always check out the archives or the notes later if you do miss it live. No big deal. We're all busy, I understand. So that's at askwardee.tv. And one of the reasons we go through so much effort to document everything we're sharing is for people that don't have time to listen or watch too. So you can read everything that we've shared. We're on episode 94. I can hardly believe it. And there's pretty much notes for everything except our first few episodes. Actually, they have notes too, just not as detailed. We started getting really detailed a couple episodes in. So, and if you have a question, like Renee's question, submit it. You'll find instructions at askwardee.tv. I'd love to put it in the queue and answer it for you. All right, and I'm going to give you a quick heads up about what's coming the end of October. We're going to do a couple Ask Wardees on a really exciting topic, at least exciting to me, because we love kind of DIY self-sufficient things. So we're going to be talking about milling your own grains. So that'll be hopefully starting next week, but definitely by the following week. So look for that in the next couple weeks. We're going to do a series on milling your own grains. I'm going to show you sprouting, milling sprouted grains. I'm going to show you how to work a home grain mill. It's going to be pretty exciting. So mark that on your calendars and join me. If you have any questions about this or questions for future Ask Wardee, then askwardee.tv has all the information for you. And thanks so much for joining me. God bless you all. Bye-bye.